this point, you might be saying, well, if you knew, you would have been applying best practice. But the reality is that there's a really big difference between best practice and applied practice. And the reason is one size does not fit all in any way, shape, or form. Sorry to interrupt myself and you and I on this adventure to learn something new. But I just needed to stop us for a second and say, if you love this content and if you found it helpful, I have an entire collection of awesome stuff that if you stick around to the end of this video, I'll tell you exactly how to gain access to that. It's basically just stuff I can't share on YouTube. There's a ton of free asset downloads as well as some thought exercises to help you optimize your Salesforce CRM. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sales to the Force. I am your host, Alyssa Schaefer, and in this video, I am going to teach you the difference between best practice and applied practice. So for those of you out there that don't know, I am a senior Salesforce consultant. I have been working in Salesforce consulting for about 10 years now. Obviously, I didn't start as a senior resource, and that's actually kind of where this video, the topic of this video is coming from. First, I want to disclose that I am a senior Salesforce consultant and that this channel is completely separate from my job. The reason I am making this channel, the reason I'm making this content is because I want to bring my knowledge to the my knowledge to the marketplace, assuming I can speak about it, where I am not only helping Salesforce consultants understand how to become better at being consultants, but also folks who are maybe shopping around for a Salesforce consultant, or if you are trying to understand if working with a Salesforce consultant is right for you. I am trying to bridge that gap, guys, because guess what? It's a big gap. So without further ado, let's dive into best practice versus applied practice. So first, I want to start with, we got to rewind a little bit to when I first started in this industry, because guess what? You actually do not need your system administrator certification to get started. Now, if you're watching this video and you used to work with me a decade ago, you might be like, oh my God, she didn't have a certification? Like, sorry, not sorry, but no. In order to learn this industry, you do not need to be certified. You just need to be interested. You just need to be, like, as a Salesforce consultant, so speaking to you guys, if you're curious enough, you're going to learn plenty of information to get yourself started. And for somebody who is shopping around for a Salesforce consultant, you cannot judge folks for they're a little bit further down the path you do not want to travel down. So guess what? These guys, investing in these guys learning more information is actually the best asset for anybody shopping around for a Salesforce consultant, because guess what? Not all of us are created equal. And if everybody was equally good at jobs, then none of us would be having this conversation. If you think you're the best at what you do, there's a reason for that. And if everybody was equally as great, you wouldn't be the best at what you can do. And that's the same in this industry as well. So let's just cut that out. So, back to best practice versus applied practice. When I first got started, I did not have my system administrator certificate at all. And to be honest with you, that didn't matter. Everybody always gets started as like a project manager, which for the record, project managers used to be the person who was designing the project to build the whole bridge. And now for Salesforce consulting, like if you're a project manager, you're a glorified scheduler and tracker of time. Like a monkey could do that. So the point is that you actually don't need your certification to get started in this industry, to get exposed, to get your feet wet. Now, so how does that apply to this video at all? Stop going off on a tangent. So the point is that I didn't get my certification until a few years in, because I was just a project manager for the first couple of years. I was purely a project manager, and I was just being exposed to all these different kinds of projects, not to mention how to run them well, how to not run them well. That was very interesting to watch from the sidelines. I could make videos about each one of my projects individually, but the point being that when I finally started studying for my certification, I remember like looking at these best practices and being like, well, that's interesting. I've done, 10 implementation projects, and not a single one of them did that. And, at this point, you might be saying, well, if you knew, you would have been applying best practice. But the reality is that there's a really big difference between best practice and applied practice. And the reason is that best practice doesn't apply to everybody's situation. So what you do is you learn best practice, and then you learn how to manipulate best practice for the right solution for the situation that you're in. Because to assume that Salesforce is one size fits all is not if that's what you think, you're in for a really rough learning curve. Sorry, I don't know how to break that news to you any nicer. Salesforce is not one size fits all. Salesforce is clay to be molded. Salesforce is a developmental property that you are set to build whatever you want on it. Yeah, okay, they give you the hammer and the nails and maybe even some of the wood, but what you build is not only is Salesforce doesn't care or anything, but they are not invested in you building the right solution for you. Sometimes they are if you're a big enough company, but for those of us out there that are, for a lot of the companies I've worked with, like a little bit on the lower, smaller end, they are not invested in you, which is crazy to me because then, it's you continuously paying, for their product or service. So to me, I find this a little crazy. But at the end of the day, they have so many clients that's how they created the industry that I am in. And actually, hindsight being 2020, it's the right move because if you watch the video that I made, I'll link it in the description, of separating the tool from the selling machine, then you already understand that it's an asset to have somebody like me who's helping you understand how to use Salesforce to your advantage versus the guy who's trying to sell you all the Salesforce stuff, that being two different people. Then this guy's trying to sell you all the products, and then I sit there and go, okay, well, this product will help you, this product probably won't. Based on the goals that you want to achieve, this is what we need and this is what we don't need. So with all of that being said, I'll link that video. I'm not going to get into it in this one. Let's stay on topic of best practice versus applied practice. So I was studying for my certification, and I remember having a really hard time because I kept getting the wrong answer, because every time they'd ask you a stereotypical scenario, right, they'd be like, oh, okay, well, sorry about that. Google is like, you're talking to yourself, you psycho. Anyway, a little bit. But the point being, we're all a little crazy here. But anyway, back on my tangent. So when I first started studying for my certification exam, I kept failing all my tests because it would say, oh, Ursa Major needs to do X, Y, and Z. And my answer was always, it depends. I knew exactly what question I needed to ask next in order to know what the right solution was. But the test to get a certification is you have to just know what best practice is. You don't have to know anything about how that applies to actually using Salesforce. You don't have to know. You only have to know what Salesforce says is the cookie cutter, one size fits all response. Which, for those of you out there that live in the real world, you understand that I can give everybody the same advice on how to lose weight. And it would only help a certain percentage of those people, because one size does not fit all in any way, shape, or form. It just doesn't, because everybody is unique. Everybody likes to be, their own unique unicorn. Cool, fair enough, whatever. You're a unicorn. But the reality is best practice does not apply to all circumstances. It needs to be the foundation of everything. But moral of this story, when I was studying for my certification exam, I recognized the huge gap between theory knowledge and applied practice, and how that really translates to the work and solutions that you're actually providing for people. Because guess what? If all you're telling people as a Salesforce consultant is this is what best practice is, you're going to be causing just as many problems as you're fixing, because that may be best practice, but that may not be the actual solution that this person needs. Now, I will also say, just as a caveat right now, that complexity is the enemy of execution. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Complexity is the enemy of execution. And I think with Salesforce, people fall into this trap a lot. They think, oh, I'm a unique unicorn and I need this very special solution. No, you don't. You need a simple foundational solution that has the end in mind, meaning that you can adjust it and move it along the way. So you need to create a simple solution that is flexible, not this super complicated, custom, unique. So with that being said, that's just, from my own experience. I literally sat there and I was listening. I'm like, studying for this test, and I was pretty sure I was gonna fail because I was like, what? Like, you're telling people to do what? And I was like, that's interesting. I've done 10 implementations. Not a single time did we do that. And who knows, we could go ask all those implementations. Chances are, so 10 years ago, they have needed to grow and adjust and change their approach because businesses are living, breathing entities. They don't stay the same. And that's why the power of a consultant is to give you advice, not only in the moment, but with the forethought of where you're going, where you're trying to go, what the business is trying to do, accomplish, and grow into. So with that being said, that is how I came to really see the difference between best practice and applied practice. So, if you're listening to this and you're a brand new Salesforce consultant, I will tell you right now, you have to learn best practice. I did. It's a thing. You have to learn best practice. However, you also have to keep in mind that what you're learning is not the end all be all. And this is something that I talked about in the very first video that I made about Consulting 101, where I went into the fact that our brains, when you're looking for an answer, when you find an answer, your brain goes, yes, and then stops looking. And that is the anti way to live life. I'm going to say live life, but being a consultant, you cannot find the first answer and go, done. You have to be able to say to yourself in your brain that this is the first answer. Now I go see if I can find a better answer than this one. And one, it's training your brain. Literally, it's training your brain not to find the first solution and go, yep, cool, I found an answer. It's not always the right answer. So that's as a Salesforce consultant, yes, you absolutely have to learn best practice, but you also have to learn other versions of best practice in that ballpark to really understand how you're going to be actually finding the right solutions for all these clients. And so from the client perspective, if you're watching my videos because you're like, I want to understand a bit more about Salesforce consulting, I want to understand what a consultant is, what a consultant does, how a consultant can even help me. So if you're in that park, apparently we're not hairdressers, but if you're in that boat or that ballpark of wanting to understand, then, you're probably online being on Salesforce help, being like, okay, how do I implement profiles? And Salesforce help spits out best practice, and you're like, okay, well, that kind of applies to me, but that doesn't really apply to me. So if you want to understand what a consultant does, a consultant takes what you need and translates that into what we need to build on Salesforce to make your life not painful. I am going to be releasing a video called Do Your Users Hate Salesforce? So stay tuned for that one, because I have a feeling it's going to be applied. I think it's going to be pretty hit close to home for a lot of folks there. So anyway, If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and if you turn on your notifications, you'll get notified every time I post a new one of these. I can promise you I'm going to post a lot, because I really do think there is no reason why working with a Salesforce consultant should be such a mystery. No, like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what I actually do. Let's talk about how it actually works, because people tend to, if you don't know what to expect, you go in with preconceived expectations. And I can tell you firsthand, preconceived expectations is the fastest way to disappointment. So the only way to avoid disappointment is to have the right expectations going in on the forefront. So I mentioned a lot of links. They might be in this description. They might be up there. And I can promise you there's going to be more. So turn on your notifications if you find this content helpful and you want to learn more. So I will see you on the next one. And thanks to everybody who watches till the very end. Hey there. Thanks again for watching and joining me on my mission to create some blatantly honest Salesforce consulting content. I'm making this not only for aspiring Salesforce consultants that want to learn what it's like, but also somebody shopping around for a Salesforce consultant. If you want to know what to look for, then you can't miss out on these videos. And if you're also in the boat where you're like, what would it even be like to work with a Salesforce consultant? What could they even provide me? Then all of these videos are for you. And there are a ton of free videos on YouTube. But before you sign up to pay a consultant $30 to $100K to help you along your Salesforce journey, I highly recommend that you gain access to this free Salesforce Captain membership site so that you can be empowered with some information before you're put in that really tough decision that you're going to have to make. As promised, here are the instructions for how you gain access to this free site. I also would like to put in a disclaimer side note that because of the nature of email marketing nowadays, I've started to detest email. So I can promise you that the email you use to sign up for this membership site will only be used for receipts, and also for you to be able to manage access to your membership site, like if you have to change your password or something like that. If you want to be notified about each new video that I post on YouTube, then go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notification bell, and YouTube will let you know. In this membership site, though, there is a way to contact me directly. So the only way to be able to do that is to sign up for a seat in this site. But I have curated some questions. It's a form with some questions on it so that I can get the information I need in order to be able to help someone in this area of expertise. All you have to do is click the link in the description and also in the pinned comments. It is also, it's everywhere. I'm not trying to hide it from you. So all you have to do is click that link, put in your preferred email. As stated, I promise that is your email for your stuff. I do not want to talk to you over email, but you can access me in this free membership site, and I'm able to share stuff in this site that I can't share on YouTube. For instance, like the no BS guide to a Salesforce CRM, or the mini course on how to think about automations, understanding automations, and other things along the lines of learning how to be a great system administrator, and not only that, but really how to get the bang for your buck with working with a Salesforce consultant, because I know I don't come cheap. So I would much rather help you know exactly what you need before I am tasked with the assignment of figuring it out. So I really enjoyed making all of these videos for you guys, and I hope that you've got some great value out of it. And I can't wait to see you in the Salesforce Captain membership site. See you there.